Are you an interior designer and you're wondering how to land your dream client? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, so let's talk about the 7 things that I do with intention that are allowing me to attract dream clients. Like, for example, the $14 million house that I'm working on, that the clients are so much fun and I love them, and we've actually vacationed together. So, all right, before I get into that, I want to tell you where I'm coming from. I experienced one of my first projects ever. This client hired me to do the interior design of her condo. And when I came in, I was showing up with all this like might, and I was showing up very professional and like all the ways I thought I should show up. But what happened is that I was leaning into things about myself that were actually not strengths. I was actually telling this person that I was gonna do project management really well and I was gonna manage the budget and the time and all the things that actually are kind of my weaknesses. But I was doing that because I thought that would be the most valuable thing for her. I made an assumption there. And what happened was, her expectation was that that's where I was gonna shine. But the reality was, that's not actually where I shine. So at the end of the project, you can imagine, it didn't really go so well, and she called me screaming, said, "You know what, you're just stupid," hung up the phone on me, and we never spoke again. So if I can tell you that it's so important to work with dream clients, I really mean it's so important to work with dream clients. You really first have to get clear on who your dream client is. So there's 3 ways that I want you to think about that. First is you have to know what your differentiator is in the market. You have to know what sets you apart, because then you'll be able to tap into what your unique value is. When you understand what your unique value is, you can then understand who that most powerfully serves. For example, I have a designer in my program who used to be a lawyer before she became an interior designer. Now, what she realized was that because she was a lawyer, she has a unique perspective on interior design in a way that really, really supports lawyers in particularly valuably. So getting clear on that unique value really helps her understand who she would love to serve. So I ask you, what is your unique value? What sets you apart in this industry? And then you can uncover who would most valuably receive that. And understanding that that maybe sets you up to understand who you would love to serve. The other question I want you to ask yourself, is there a particular project type you'd like to work on? So for example, do you want to work on Airbnbs or vacation homes or family homes or elderly homes? I know aging in place is something people are very interested right now. So what kind of project typology interests you? Getting clarity on that, plus having clarity on who, so the who and the what are the first 2 pieces. The third piece of that is to understand what your ideal budget is. So do you want to work on $5 million houses? Do you want to work on $500,000 houses? What's the ideal budget? Maybe it's home value, maybe it's scope of work, maybe it's amount of money spent on that scope. So get clear on what the money piece is of the who you want to work with, and that will support your clarity. Okay, so now that you have clarity on who your dream client would be, now you can move into how to attract them with intention. Okay, so the first thing that you can do to think about attracting the ideal client is think about who you need to be in order to attract that person. What I mean is, have you heard that old saying, birds of a feather flock together? Well, it's kind of true in attraction. Like things are attracted to each other. So if you're trying to attract young and fun people, then do you come across in your messaging and marketing like you're young and fun? Because generally, if you come out like young and fun, you're going to attract people who are young and fun. The next thing you want to think about is, what's your differentiator? What I mean is, what sets you apart in the market? How are you different? How do you provide more value than anybody else through your unique lived experiences? If you can get clear on that, you know what the biggest value you bring to people is, and then when people are able to hear that, you're able to attract the people that would find a lot of value in what your personal differentiator is. Now, here's something to consider when considering what your differentiator is. If you say things like, Bespoke services, that's maybe not a differentiator because there are other designers in our industry that offer bespoke services. The other thing to consider is that if the opposite of what you say your value is something that nobody wants, then it's an opportunity to go deeper. What I mean is, do you say beautiful and functional spaces? Well, the opposite of beautiful is ugly, and the opposite of functional is not functional. So, does anybody want a not functional, ugly space? I don't think so. So, then there's an opportunity to go much deeper with what your differentiator is. My differentiator is what I call biographical design. Biographical design is my design philosophy wherein I support someone in designing a home using their biography as the foundation of the design so that their home is a self-reflection. Now, what's the opposite of biographical design? A lot of things, styles, like lots of things. And is the opposite something people would want? Yeah, sure. So then that is something that definitely differentiates me in the market. Another way to be intentional with attracting that dream client is to show up where they already hang out. So, for example, if your dream client is a family home, then maybe a powerful place for you to find where those people are already hanging out is to show up, for example, in a mommy's group or in a neighborhood family group, because that's going to be where they already are. So can you show up in places where your dream clients are already hanging out? Because then when you show up there, they're going to notice you and be attracted to you. All right, this next thing might seem totally obvious, but what I know is that I see it over and over again. Are you reachable? Is it easy for people to find your phone number or your website or your email address? Because if it's not, then how are they going to get in touch with you? And getting in touch with you is the first step to attract them, right? So is it clear on your website, for example? When someone goes to your website, is knowing how to get in touch with you very easy to find? In social media, do you post a link to your website or a link to your phone number or ways for people to get in touch with you? I know it sounds obvious, but I bet you can find a hole that you haven't done that. Okay, the next piece is something that I really was challenged with for a while, but when I got clarity on it, things started to shift for me. So the thing you want to do is use language that your dream clients are already using. Here's what I mean, and this is what I experienced in my trial and error of this thing for myself. I remember back in the day, I was talking about interior design on social media platforms and the like. I was talking about it in ways of how-tos, like how to style a bookcase or how to style a coffee table. But what I found is that my dream clients, they don't do anything DIY. My dream clients, the people that I'm working with right now, actually have interior landscape people who come weekly to water their plants. That's my dream client. And so what I found is that the language I was using before about DIY was never resonating with that type of client. So get clear on things that your clients are already listening to and looking at and use that language, and then they'll hear you over the crowd. Another way that you can be intentional with attracting your ideal client or your dream client is to get clear on what their particular unique pain is. So everybody across the board who hires an interior designer is doing so for the majority of the same reasons, like they don't have the time to do it, it feels like a puzzle, things like that. But your dream client in particular has a particular pain that not every homeowner has. For example, do you work with people who are aging in place or the elderly? Well, their particular pain that is unlike other homeowners is going to be that they really need ergonomics infused in their home. They're going to really need safety considerations to be had in their home. So if you can talk to those particular pain points, you're going to be sifting your dream client out of the dream client crowd. All right, this is maybe the most important one of all, and you've probably heard it. Maybe your mom told it to you when you were going on a date, but it's so important to be yourself. Now, the thing is that If you're out there in the world, you are going to be attracting people. But just like you heard in the story that I originally told you about the client that I showed up my fake self and she was attracted to my fake self and just deteriorated the whole project. And at the end, it was a terrible result for her and for me. And so what I'm inviting you to consider is if you want to attract a dream client, that client is only going to feel dreamy if they're attracted to the authentic, real version of you. But that can only happen if you give yourself permission and give yourself the strength to show up vulnerably enough to be authentically you. So sometimes it can feel hard to show up authentic. I get that. It used to be really, really hard for me, which is one of the reasons why I built the Biographical Design Collective, which is a group of designers who are dedicated to doing that. And you can find us hanging out. Where do we hang out? At Facebook, at the Biographical Design Collective. All right, if you're interested in learning more about what I'm all about, why don't you come visit me on my website, biographicaldesign.com. Dream clients do exist. And when you work with a dream client, it really ignites a fire of passion in you and it energizes you and it makes you come alive. So let's be intentional with attracting those dream clients so that we can deliver excellence to the world. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.